A lot of us think magnetism means becoming more noticeable, more beautiful, more interesting, more compelling, more somehow. But the way this is landing for me right now is almost the opposite. I'm wondering if natural magnetism might begin when something in the body stops auditioning. Last week, this sphere, this attraction sphere, brought up fear, projection, and the question of where I hand away my own inner crown when I feel unsafe. This week, that question moves into the body, because after fear tangles the field, the body doesn't always become free right away. Sometimes it stays defended, careful, still checking how it's being received. And honestly, I think this is where one of the quieter forms of performance shows up. Not performance like I'm pretending to be someone else, more like an old survival intelligence that learned how to make my aliveness useful. I recognize the part of me that wants to be vivid, but is also quietly checking whether that vividness is acceptable and even impactful. The part that wants to be alive, but also wants everyone to be normal about it. Which is a very reasonable request from the nervous system, and absolutely not how being alive seems to work. So the thing I'm sitting with this week is the difference between aliveness and performance. Performance asks, how am I being received? Aliveness asks, what is true in me right now? Performance manages the room. Aliveness inhabits the body. And I don't think aliveness means being careless. It doesn't mean throwing every boundary out the window and calling that freedom. That sounds less like liberation and more like a scheduling problem for future me. Clean aliveness has edges. Not walls, edges. A wall says, nothing can come near me. An edge says, I can feel where I begin and where I end. So I don't have to disappear, and I don't have to take over. This is where Regency keeps coming back in for me. Every soul keeps its own crown, including me, which means I don't have to use my beauty or my gifts to earn my place in the room, and I don't have to use them to take over the room either. That's the kind of aliveness I'm interested in here. It isn't cold. It isn't shut down. It isn't pretending I don't have color moving through me. It is simply the relief of letting that color belong to me first. And that is why the scarlet ibis feels like such a perfect image for this week. A bright red bird standing in clear water, not apologizing for being red, not asking the pond if the color is too much, not making a 5-part educational series about why red is spiritually appropriate. Just standing there in its own vividness, with space around it. Body reflected in the water. Color belonging to itself. That's the image I want to carry this week. Not becoming more magnetic by adding more performance, but letting my body remember the quiet dignity of being alive without turning that aliveness into a job. Beauty doesn't need a job. Color doesn't need a permission slip. My body doesn't have to become evidence that I matter. So this week I'm not asking, how do I become more magnetic? I'm asking what happens when I stop making my aliveness apply for approval. What does my aliveness feel like when it no longer has to perform?